Welcome to Reddit Aliens. Serious. Have you ever had what you believe to be a paranormal experience? Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. Once, when I was 11, I was alone in my grandparents' house. I think it was around 7 or 8 p.m. when it happened. Quick explanation. My grandparents' house is a two-story one, with their room being right above the living room. The second floor is made of wood, which makes a very distinct noise whenever anyone is walking on it, and the stairs plopping you right into the living room, right next to the couch that it is in front of the TV. Also, where they live is very noisy, and there's buses going up the street every hour. Keep these details, they're important. So, I was watching TV when I heard what sounded like a light thud on the second floor, but since there was nothing else, I thought it was either my imagination or the noise came from one of the neighbors. A few minutes later, I heard it again, much louder now, like there was actually someone walking up there. I knew it couldn't be a burglar because the only window on the second floor that anyone could use to enter the house had bars, and it was already closed and locked. The sound kept going, as if the person was walking in circles, so I went upstairs to check, using a cushion as a shield just in case. I was 11, shut up. Turned on the lights, checked the room, nothing. I checked the whole second floor just to be safe, but found nothing odd or out of place, so I went back downstairs to the TV. Around 1 or 2 hours later, it came back again, this time so loud it was real. It felt like it was in my ears and upstairs at the same time. No matter the noises from the street or the TV, I could hear perfectly, and now I was truly scared. The steps also got out of the bedroom. I heard them perfectly getting out of the bedroom. No noise from the door though. Pause at the corridor and come down the stairs. I sat there frozen in fear, hugging the cushion while the steps came down. When the person came to the part of the stairs where the wall ended, you could actually see who was coming. The steps stopped. I rushed to turn the stairs light up and, thank God, I saw nothing. But after a while, I swear I heard the steps going back upstairs. Of course, when the adults got back home and I told my mom, she said it was just my imagination, but it was not. Also, no, I wasn't watching a horror movie or anything. I was the very definition of a crybaby and a scared cat as a kid. Anything horror was a big-ass nope in my book. Oddly enough, I liked watching the grim adventures of Billy and Mandy. I was zapping between Disney Channel and Discovery Kids. Also, to finish the story, about 2 years after that, I went to my bedroom to grab something and saw a tall man's shadow-like figure with 2 white dots for eyes and a silhouette that looked like an overcoat. I haven't seen, heard, or experienced anything like those moments in that house ever since. I saw apparitions that looked like heat signatures in the attic. I saw someone walk by in the bar I worked at, and another employee standing next to me saw him at the same time. We searched the entire place and didn't find anyone. When I made my room in said attic, I woke up hitting the floor. My bed had moved 3 feet from the wall. The bed frame was on stationary feet, no wheels. About a month after my father died, I was crying myself to sleep one night and caught a glimpse of what looked like a cloud of smoke in the shape of a man playing the violin. My father was a musician. Looking back, it was probably just the effect of grief and dim light on my stupid 9-year-old brain. I just about pissed myself at the time though. I went to see a movie with my boyfriend at this old theater in Wellington, New Zealand. It was a nature documentary, not scary, not traumatic in any way. Afterwards, I went to the washroom, which was fairly small and only had about 3 stalls. I sit on the toilet in the first stall and I can hear another woman in the third stall, just going pee. Suddenly, I feel air blowing on my head, like a vent got turned on, and I looked up to see where the wind was coming from. Just as I realized there was no vent, and it was strange that there was air blowing on my head. It was like there was suddenly air spinning in front of me, almost like a mini tornado. There was the strongest scent of perfume, and it felt like something was trying to materialize right in front of me in the stall. The strangest thing was that I was also completely and utterly overcome with emotion, so much so that I was cry-sobbing and could barely breathe. I had literally gone from sitting on the toilet being totally calm and even dum-de-doing, and 10 seconds later, I was literally hysterical. The spinning felt like it was about to materialize something, and then it just suddenly stopped, like nothing had happened. I could hear the lady in the stall, and could tell that she didn't hear anything. I, however, couldn't stop sobbing and trying to catch my breath. There was nothing that I was upset about. I don't have panic attacks, and I'm really a very calm, level-headed person. It took me 20 minutes to calm down and come out of the bathroom. My boyfriend thought something had happened to me. I can't explain it. I've never experienced anything like that ever again in my life. It was so weird. I wonder what your boyfriend was thinking about while you were in the bathroom for 20 minutes. So maybe he texted. I'm glad you're okay though. Good story. The house I live in is an old farmhouse in upstate New York. It's haunted, but my grandpa said it's not poltergeist or conjuring haunted. These ghosts don't do shit. Doors open. You feel something coming into the room where there's nothing there, stuff like that. My mom died giving birth to me, and I've had several dreams where I see her and talk to her. It doesn't feel like a dream, but an actual conversation. Nobody believes me, but I don't care anymore. I just don't tell anybody in real life because I'm tired of the crazy looks. My best friend died in 2019. This week I woke up to her on the edge of my bed, and she said, "That new friend? I like her." I blinked and she was just gone. My friend I made this year then texted me and asked if I recognized a ring she found in the pocket of one of my hoodies. It was my dead friend's ring. There is no way it could have made it into my hoodie. I got this year as she lived 2 states over when she died, and her mom wouldn't let me see her when she was alive, so I wouldn't make her a gay. So I hadn't seen her since 2016. I really miss her. Stayed in an Airbnb in Prenzlauer Berg, Berlin. I couldn't decide if the place was decorated to imitate 1970s East German style, or whether it hadn't been decorated in 40 years. I suspected the latter. On the first night, me and my friends all heard footsteps in the night walking across the apartment. Then the following night, we were having drinks in the kitchen, and a lamp was knocked off of its table by some invisible force. Shortly afterwards, we heard 3 distinct loud knocks at the apartment door, an internal door, inaccessible without a key. Being the only male, I rushed to answer it, thinking it could be the landlord or something, but there was nobody there. When we checked the Booking.com reviews, several other guests had also reported similar spooky goings-on. I work at a no-kill animal shelter, but in the 50s through the early 90s, that same building was a county pound where 5 to 7 animals were euthanized daily, so there's a history there. On weekends, one person works the kennel alone on Sundays and Mondays. The layout of our particular kennels is a kind of circle of about 20 kennels and 2 doors leading to an outside run yard. While we are cleaning kennels, 2 dogs at a time are outside in the runs. This was about 2 years ago, me alone on a Sunday, and at that time we only had one solid black dog in kennel available for adoption named Lucy, and she was a large shepherd that was somewhat not always friendly with other dogs. I was cleaning a different dog's kennel when I very clearly saw a solid large black dog's butt and back legs, with a long shaggy tail and cut all around the corner. My first thought is, oh shit, Lucy's gotten out of her kennel, and I didn't know if she was headed for another dog's kennel to try and fight through another dog's kennel door, because as she cut that corner and I lost sight of her, I heard the dogs in their kennels on the other side start barking. I quickly put down my mop and kinda sprinted down the kennel hall around the corner to go leash Lucy, and in doing so, I passed her kennel and she was in the kennel. I kinda slammed on the brakes and just stared at Lucy as the barking on the other side kind of stopped. And I thought, well, if that wasn't Lucy, I don't have any other large black dogs. I went around the whole kennel 3 times and there was no loose dogs. Certainly none that met that description, and I know that I very surely saw a black dog running around the kennel floor, and over the years, I was not the only one to see him or her. Alright, freakiest thing that happened to me was this one time during my first semester of college. We had a bunch of people over and started a movie at an exact time, knew the precise runtime of the movie, so we knew exactly when it would end. We never paused the movie, but when it was over, we realized it was a little over an hour later than it should be. All 8 or so people who were there swear we started the movie exactly on time, and no one could figure out how we were missing a full hour, especially because it wasn't near daylight savings, and all our devices, phones, oven clock, alarm clocks all agreed. 8 people just lost a full hour of time with no memories. This was as well as a few other spooky things like things falling over in the kitchen, and one of my roommates inexplicably crying for no reason happened in a house an old man built in the 20s, lived his entire life, and then died in the master bed. The stories about missing time always fascinate me. My first thought, of course, is daylight savings, but you covered that in your explanation, so pretty interesting. I don't know. What do you guys think? I used to work on the youth staff at my old church. Now, this church was built like 70 years ago. Lots of weird stuff happened at the church, like footsteps being heard on higher floors, lights being seen moving along the ceiling. But the weirdest experience I ever had was when I showed up early for Wednesday night service by about an hour. I was in town and didn't feel like driving home, only to leave a few minutes later. The youth room was behind a gymnasium in an old school building attached to the church. I pull up to the church, and there are like 3 cars there, and the gymnasium is locked. So I go through the church, say hi to the pastor, and start walking down a long hallway that leads to the gymnasium. As I'm walking, I hear a basketball game going. Not surprising, the church would often rent the gym out for extra cash. But when I open the door, the sound of a basketball game, crowd cheering, people running, etc., immediately stops. There's not a person in the gym. I quickly make my way across the court and up the stairs, praying the doors are unlocked, and thankfully they are. The janitor is there cleaning, and I go up to him and say, "The weirdest thing just happened." And he looks at me and just says, "You heard the basketball game too?" We just look at each other, not really much to say at that point. Several other people show up, all saying they heard the basketball game. After maybe 20 minutes, no one else says they heard anything. To this day, this is my top ghost story. I want to go on the record that I have never had an experience like this since then. I'm a firm believer in the paranormal, but even this makes me shiver when I recall it. Me and my family around 5 years ago lived in an old house from the 1700s. It had been in my family's name for quite a bit, but never really had any history around it. We'd been living there for a solid 3 to 4 years at this time of this happening. The house had grown unsettling in a way to the point that the places I felt most uneasy around, the crawl space in the basement and the attic, I'd catch my cats hissing at or downright refusing to go near. The basement crawl space was directly 2 floors under my bedroom, and the attic was right outside it. I woke up around 4 in the morning feeling sick in my stomach. The same on-edge feeling hit me, but I paid no mind to it as I scrolled on my phone for a bit. I couldn't shake the uneasy feeling, and I understood why when I looked up. In my second-story window, which had a drop-off to the basement steps right outside it, so a solid 3 stories reach from the actual physical ground, there was just someone or something staring at me, looked straight out of a page of scary stories to tell in the dark. I flipped over in my bed and began begging like there was no tomorrow. It felt like only 5 minutes, but by the time I turned back over, the sun was rising. I don't know what the hell happened that night, but yeah, there's been other experiences in that house, but this one is just the most notable. About 2 days after my father died, I was in the loft area of my house. My wife was in our bedroom and the door was closed. I knew there was a bag of candy on my wife's nightstand, and I heard the sound of someone with their hand in the bag of candy, but it was going on longer than you'd expect for someone just grabbing a piece. I went to the bedroom to see what was going on, and when I opened the bedroom door, I saw the bag fall to the ground. My wife told me that she was in bed with her back to the nightstand and heard what she thought was me getting a piece of candy, but she got annoyed that I was taking so long and turned over to ask me what my problem was and saw the bag of candy floating in the air and emptying onto the floor, which was right when I opened the door, so the bag just fell. Went to a guy place in winter. It was those old houses with no heater. We got there in the middle of the night. When we were getting ready to sleep, we heard loud banging on the door. No big deal, probably wind blowing through the window. He fell asleep first. I was under the blanket. Then I felt this sudden chill, like something was there. I closed my eyes and elbowed him while thinking, wake the F up. He got up, then yelled, turn on the light. I jumped up and pulled the light switch above us. He had those ceiling fans with lights. Then, after a good minute, he told me he saw a human shadow stood by the bed. We looked at each other, then went back to sleep. Nothing happened afterwards, but I never go back there again. That was the second time I experienced weird shit in that house, and I only went there 3 times. 2 out of 3, lol. I went down to help rebuild some houses in New Orleans. It was about 7 years after Katrina, and there were still skeletons of houses boarded up with spray paint reading 2 dead inside, 1 adult, 1 child dead inside, 0 found. I cried a lot during that trip. It was devastating seeing how long those houses had been standing there as a horrible reminder to those who lived through it. But even with all that heartbreak and destruction, every person I met welcomed me with a big smile and a hug. There were a group of sisters that we were helping rebuild their childhood home. I had the job of rebuilding their bedroom that they all shared as children. It made me so happy to be working on that bedroom, as that's how I grew up. 1 bedroom for 4 girls. I knew how special that room was to them. I kept a place in my heart for those sisters and made sure I did the best I could, even though I'm not the strongest or handiest person around. Now, during all this, going between other jobs, sightseeing, and everything else, the people I was working with and I kept finding change everywhere. We'd come back to sleep in our bunk beds and there would be dimes and nickels in our beds, under our pillows, and our shoes. We were finding them everywhere. One girl said she heard that finding dimes meant an angel or a spirit was saying hello. We weren't too sure of that though. On our last day of working on the sisters' home, they made us an awesome dinner with gumbo and everything New Orleans you can imagine. While we were eating and talking, they told us stories of what the neighborhood was like when they were children in the 60s. They told us the story of an elderly man who lived a few houses down. They said he would walk up and down the streets with a jar of coins to hand out to the children so they could run down to the corner candy store. My heart fluttered when I heard that, and we all looked at each other, remembering what the other group member had said. Maybe it was a coincidence, maybe nothing at all, but I like to believe it was that sweet old man thanking us for helping his neighborhood and those sisters he would so fondly gift candy money to. Paranormal or not, who doesn't love a nice story about people helping other people? So, thank you for doing that. Way too many to have time to detail right now. Ghosts always find me, or I'm sensitive to them or something. I'll share a couple of short, I hope, stories, then going to bed. Tomorrow I can share more. 1. Was putting our son to bed a couple of years ago. My wife was on the couch watching TV. I was standing at his bedroom door. It's just the 3 of us. No pets or anything like that. The bedroom door I was standing next to saying goodnight is in clear view from the couch. Next to the TV, we have a wax warmer lamp. It turns on-off by touch. The moment I said goodnight to my son, my wife and I saw that lamp turn on without anyone touching it. It hasn't done that before or since, but we've had plenty of other experiences in that house before and since. 2. About 15 years ago, maybe a few more, this girl I was dating, her friend, and a friend of mine went to an abandoned house. Her friend had been there many times and taken lots of photos with white, foggy apparitions in them. It was a warm, sunny day with clear skies and no wind. We went in the middle of the afternoon, too. We first walked around outside. I tried taking pictures, but nothing ever turned up. Best I caught was, well, my friend stepped into the garage, which was under the house. I took a photo, and in a flash, there was a second shadow of a person next to him. Then we went inside. I immediately felt something grab my right arm and hang onto it the whole time in the house. My arm happened to also be bent. Picture how a man and woman hook their arms together while escorting each other, or a child holding me like I'm protecting it. I'm not sure what was going on other than feeling it. We made our way back to the living room area where we entered. The front door was lying on the ground. Most of the house was falling apart. I started taking more pictures. As I did, the temperature got noticeably warmer. Then the front door lying on the floor started shaking. Keep in mind how thick and heavy the front door houses usually are. There's weight to them. They're very solid doors. We ran out of there after the dog and doors shook. Except whatever was holding my arm came with us. It felt like someone was sitting in my lap in the car for nearly 10 minutes driving away. It did eventually leave my lap while driving, but it was cold and had weight to it. When I was 4 or 5 years old, I would see spirits and talk to them. I don't remember all of the times, but my mom told me the other day about one thing I did that freaked her out. She said I would never sleep and always wake up screaming in the night. One night I woke up calm and called her normally. She came in, asked me what's wrong. I apparently said I was talking to someone, and he said I must call her, tell her he says hi. She said that alone creeper her out, but she asked me what else did he say. I then said he said his name was Norman. She then staggered back, then just held it together to get me to sleep. Norman is my mother's cousin, who died in a car crash in 2003, and I was born in 2005 and didn't know of him until my granny told me about him when I was around 10. One night I went to bed early while my parents watched a movie in the living room. My room is right off the living area, so when someone is in there, I can see the light under the crack in my door. I didn't actually go to sleep, but just laid on my bed, facing away from the door with my eyes closed. At one point, I heard my mom slowly walk to my door and stop just outside of it. After several seconds, I heard her slowly open the door. As she did, I could see the light flood my bedroom from the living room lights. My eyes were still closed. I thought it was odd, but I thought she was looking for something and didn't want to wake me. I then heard my mom slowly walk across my room. Again, kind of odd, but I didn't think much of it and kept pretending to be asleep. Then I felt her sit on my bed. That kind of annoyed me since I was clearly trying to sleep. So I turned over to ask her what the hell she was doing, but nobody was there. The lights were off and my door was shut. I got up, peeked outside the door and saw their bedroom light was off and the house was dark and silent. Freaked me the hell out.